Before this, my cleaning towels were usually stored inside the cabinet, so every time I needed one, I had to open the cabinet and search for it. The towels were often stacked on top of each other, making them look messy and dry more slowly. Then I reused an old detergent container as a towel holder for the cabinet door. I cleaned it, cut open one side to hang towels, and kept the handle on top for holding a mini cleaning brush. Once finished, the open body worked perfectly as a towel holder, keeping the towels dry and much easier to grab. Finally, both the towels and mini cleaning tools stayed neatly organized outside the cabinet, so I no longer had to open the cabinet every time I needed a towel. The whole kitchen area also looked much cleaner and more organized. Instead of throwing away an old detergent container, I reused it to create a beautiful decorative plant pot for the yard or balcony. First, I washed the entire plastic container thoroughly to remove any leftover detergent inside and let it dry completely. Then I used a marker to outline the opening shape I wanted before carefully cutting, along the lines with scissors or a utility knife. I chose a wavy edge design so the pot would look softer and more decorative instead of having a plain straight cut. After cutting, I lightly sanded the edges to make them smoother and safer to touch. I also kept the original handle of the detergent container, which makes the pot much easier to move around when changing soil or watering plants. Next, I poked several small holes in the bottom for drainage. This step is very important because without drainage holes, excess water could collect inside and damage the plant roots. Then I placed a tray underneath to catch extra water and help the pot stand more securely. Finally, I filled it with soil and planted small flowers or decorative plants inside. Since the plastic is quite thick and sturdy, the planter is durable enough to use for a long time. It makes the green corner look much more lively, while also giving old plastic a useful second life instead of throwing it away. While washing dishes or preparing food, I usually lean the cutting board against the sink to dry, but it often slips down or stays too close to the stainless steel surface, causing water to collect and dry slowly, sometimes making the kitchen look messier. So, I reused an old plastic bottle to make a simple but very useful cutting board holder. First, I took an empty plastic bottle and cut the body into a long, curved piece. Then I attached this plastic piece underneath the stainless steel dish rack in a suitable spot to create a small support sticking outward. Thanks to the natural curve of the bottle, the bottom edge of the cutting board can rest firmly on the plastic without slipping. When in use, the cutting board stays tilted so water can drain easily, helping it dry faster and reducing moisture buildup and odors. The cutting board also doesn't touch the sink surface directly, making it much cleaner and more hygienic. This idea reuses an old plastic bottle while keeping the kitchen more organized, especially for small kitchens without a separate place for cutting boards. Large water containers placed on the floor are usually bulky, so it's hard to move them close to the sink to fill water directly. Every time I need to fill it up, I have to tilt the container or use a small scoop, which takes a lot of time. Water also easily spills outside, making the floor wet and slippery. First, I reused a 1.5-liter plastic bottle and cut off the bottom to turn it into a simple water funnel. Then I fitted the bottle opening tightly onto the sink faucet so the water could flow directly through the bottle without spilling out. Next, I pointed the other end of the bottle down into the large water container below. When I turn on the faucet, the water flows smoothly through the bottle straight into the container, which is very convenient when the container is too big or too tall to place near the sink. This method also helps prevent water from splashing onto the floor, keeps the area around the sink drier, and is a super simple way to reuse an old plastic bottle. Many plastic containers are thrown away after use even though they are still sturdy and clean. So I reused 2 old plastic containers of similar size and attached them together to make a multi-purpose basket for the kitchen. First, I stacked or joined the 2 containers together for extra strength, then glued the edges firmly in place. Next, I heated a stainless steel fork or a small metal rod over a flame and used it to make evenly spaced holes around the one sides and bottom of the container. These small holes allow water to drain quickly, turning the container into a very handy mini basket. After finishing, I use it to wash small amounts of vegetables or fruit without needing a large basket. Thanks to the drainage holes, the fruit dries much faster after washing. This basket can also hold spoons, forks, or kitchen tools after washing so water can drain easily, keeping everything dry and organized. This idea is simple, budget-friendly, and a great way to reuse old plastic containers instead of throwing them away, especially for people who enjoy reusing household items. Carrying a heavy bucket of water often makes the thin plastic handle hurt your hand. First, I cut a piece of foam in to match the length of the bucket handle. Then I made a slit along the middle of the foam and gently inserted the bucket handle inside. So I reused an old pool noodle foam piece to make a soft grip cover for the bucket handle. When carrying the bucket, the weight is spread across the foam instead of pressing directly into the hand, which noticeably reduces pain even when carrying it for a long distance. The foam also helps prevent slipping when your hands are wet, and it's a simple but useful way to reuse old household items. Before this, I usually threw plastic cups away after using them because I thought they were no longer useful. But then I decided to reuse one and turn it into a mini pen and sticky note holder for the refrigerator, which is both practical and a great way to reduce plastic waste. First, I took a clear plastic cup and cut it in half vertically so it would have just enough depth to hold pens without looking too bulky. Then I glued the cup onto a sturdy piece of cardboard to create a strong backing that could support the cup when attached to the fridge. To make it look nicer, I decorated the cardboard with small stickers, colored borders, and a few simple decorative details so it would feel more special instead of looking like just an ordinary plastic cup. After finishing, the whole piece looked like a cute handmade decoration for the kitchen. I attached it to the refrigerator door using magnets or strong adhesive, making it very easy to use every day. The cup works perfectly for holding pens, highlighters, or small scissors, while the sticky notes stay right beside them for quick writing whenever needed. What used to be a disposable plastic cup has now become a useful little organizer that keeps the kitchen space neater, more convenient, and much cuter too. Before this, I used to keep all my earrings inside a small jewelry box and it always became messy. Tiny earrings would get tangled together, and sometimes I could not even find the matching pair. Then I reused a clear round plastic lid and turned it into a mini earring holder. First, I used a tool to make small, evenly spaced holes around the lid. Each hole was just the right size to hold one pair of earrings, making everything look much neater and easier to organize. Since the lid is transparent, I can see all the earrings at once without opening or searching through a box anymore. Next, I started decorating around the lid to make it look more attractive and eye-catching. One added a few small stickers, colored edges, and some decorative strings so the plastic lid would not look too plain anymore. Even with just a few simple details, the whole piece looked much prettier and felt more like a handmade room decoration. After finishing, it was not only useful for hanging earrings, but also cute enough to place on a vanity table or hang on the wall as a small decorative piece. Finally, I simply attached each pair of earrings onto the prepared holes, and everything became much more organized. Every pair now has its own place, so it is very easy to grab the one I want without dealing with tangles or losing pieces anymore.